Hello, this is another writer's chat. So today I'm having my second writer's chat with Sarah Gai. Here she is. And if you don't know who Sarah is, watch the other writer chats. These are our informal chats about writing, about where we're at with writing, what's happening as early authors. We're not total beginners because we've published books. Mine's non-fiction, Sarah's fiction, and she's got a magazine and I've got a cooking show. But we're not making millions. So it's just about writing and where we're at with it all. So this week I thought I would kick off with a bit of a topic because Sarah and I have been having some offline chats and I thought, this could be a interesting writer's chat to have. So here we are recording this one. So the thing I want to chat about, Sarah, is giving feedback. So I've got you're my beta reader, I'm your beta reader. I've got another beta reader who was a friend who was a manager in a bookshop when I worked there, and I'll have a couple more of the bookshop staff, I'm sure, willing to read the book too. And these are good because these are people who know books, they're avid readers as well, so they get books and they like reading what I write, like genre that I'm writing in. And that's kind of who I've got. Now, we've been having a chat about how do you give advice to people. So my take on this is if someone hasn't asked you specifically for a critique or advice, you don't give it. It's a bit like naturopathy in that sense. You don't give unsolicited advice because people aren't in a place to hear it and they don't want to hear it. And no matter how polite you try to be about it, if they don't want to hear it and they're not going to be receptive for it, they're not going to value that advice no matter how spot on that advice is. So in this indie world, you can read books that are great and books that need a lot of work. And if someone asks you for advice, then you happily say, okay, what kind of advice are you looking for? And then you give them their advice. Okay, structurally, maybe we could work here, those kinds of things. But if people aren't asking you for advice and, the thing is ready to go and they just want a review, then I find you can also be a bit torn. It's like, how do I write an honest review without being cruel? Because I don't want to write, I wouldn't want to write this book was crap because obviously only once you start producing do you understand how much work goes into stuff and can you begin to understand what goes into it all. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of my take on the thing. I don't give unsolicited advice, but when I'm asked for my opinion, then I give an honest opinion, kindly and also, what's the word, constructively. I try to show key things which can be fixed. But yeah, so because you've recently had some experience with being given some unsolicited advice. So yeah, what are your thoughts about this whole thing, Sarah?
I think it depends on where you are as a writer. I think new writers, you need to tread carefully because it's their baby and it's really their first go at doing books. So, I mean, if they don't ask for the advice, don't give it. Just let them, put their book out there and see how they go. I think with authors that have been in it for a while, you tend to take what you want to hear and what you don't. Like, I love constructive criticism, and you know that. I would rather listen to the advice and fix what I need to fix while staying true to my book. As far as reviews, that's probably a different question altogether. But with reviews, I really stick by, I won't actually put a review up if I do feel it's under three stars. I don't think that's fair to the author because what I might not like, somebody else will love. And I don't want to ruin that experience for them. So if it's around a 4 or 5 star, I'm like super excited to put that review up for them. If it's not, I tend to just leave it. I do. I don't want to put fake reviews up there. when I don't feel that it is that. But, you know, somebody else will think it's a 5. It's the same with my books. I've, you know, had the 1 stars to the 5-star reviews. But I really just look at reviews now, and I don't take too much heart in them. So did I cover both of that? I did.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so yeah, you don't give unsolicited feedback, basically. People will ask you for feedback, but you certainly wouldn't go and email someone and say, hey, can I give you some feedback on your book?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I actually had someone do that to me recently, and yeah, it was, you get conflicting advice. Some people say your book's too long. Some people say the book's too short. Some say it would have been better written in first person. Some say it would be better written in third person. Because it's the individual opinion of each person. So that's where you really do have to shut down and not listen to that unsolicited advice. And really just stick with your beta readers and the people you choose to have feedback from, and just kindly thank the other people, because they are your readers at the end of the day, and you want to keep them happy, but you don't have to bend and to their will either at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is something I learned from clinic, so from my non-writing life, is what, you know, when people find out what I do, you go to parties, there's always someone with a health condition and they want to ask advice, and you know, usually, although it seems like a simple question on the surface, the reality is it's not simple. And you know, you need to know what medication you're on, how long have you been on, what's your medical history, what's your other stuff. You know, you don't want to have any advice that's going to interact with anything. And so what looks like a simple question becomes not simple at all. And the same thing with giving advice. You know, if I hear people talk about stuff, like about health related stuff, and you might think, yep. But I don't just go up and say, oh, you're just eating wrong, or you just need to do this, you know. And because sometimes people just aren't in the space to hear it, and also sometimes they don't need to hear it, they need to understand how to actually implement it anyway. So simply telling someone, oh, this book is a dog's breakfast, is not helpful, you know. If they ask for advice, then you'd need to do things like, okay, you know, begin in the wrong spot, or very obvious things. There's typos on every page, which I'm not nitpicky about typos. I know some people really do care. I'm the story person. I like the big picture in the story. I mean, it can get hard to read if there's always issues, you know, on every page. But on the whole, I'm very forgiving with that, because I make mistakes with that too. But yeah, that whole, I think it's really important in it being constructive and it being specific if there's going to be feedback. And so it kind of brings me to this other thing that I've been noticing. So I've been buying and downloading lots of books lately, and I'm seeing a full spectrum of quality in that downloading. And I think we started chatting about this the first time, maybe, just saying that there's quite a diversity in what you see. And so as marketing, people get better and more savvy with marketing. How's that saying go? Like, you can't roll a turd in glitter. I don't know. I laughed the very first time I heard that saying. Have you heard that? Like,
I've never heard that. It's so crude.
It's wrong, but funny. And sometimes the clever marketing.
I just can't believe you said that.
Have you heard that saying?
Okay. Well, if it was a great book cover, you could. Okay.
Sorry.
If it was a great book cover, you could. I mean,
exactly. So as people get better with marketing, sometimes this is what is happening, you know. Because I said there are a couple of things that I've read that I thought, oh my God, like, you've got tens of thousands of Twitter followers or whatever, and you know, lots of reviews. And I mean, I'm not going to be highly critical, because I'm not, you know, J.K. Rowling or anything. I'm not a world respected author. Yeah, I'm just starting out, you know. But sometimes it's simple maths is really questioning. So anyway, so where am I coming to this? So the take-home message everyone says is, first of all, write a good book. So what is a good book specifically? What do you reckon? I mean, I've got my little list of things that I think makes a good book. I thought, how is that for vague advice? Everybody, obviously, who's finally ready to press publish thinks they've written a good book. So let's start at the beginning. What's a good book? Do you want me to tell you my list?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so what makes a good book? So a good story, for starters, because the whole point of its fiction is escapism, right? So it's got to be a convincing story that draws you into the world and the plot and the happenings of that story. It shouldn't feel like you can see the mechanics of the story. It should be like a natural evolution, I think. So, for example, I love Game of Thrones, and you know, as things get open, as you know, what turns out plot twists become revealed there. As a viewer, and even as a writer who you can see the foreshadowing of stuff coming up, so you can hint and guess at some of these things, but you're not sure, and you're totally drawn in while you're watching that. For me, anyway, I know some people don't like it. I love it. While you're watching that, I can't think about anything else, and you just want to be pulled into the comfort of that world while you're reading about it, even if it's contemporary, whatever. It needs to be escapism. So it needs a good story. I think it needs good characters. So people that you can like. And it's interesting, something I've been noticing for years. I used to love the TV show Buffy, but the character herself, Buffy, used to annoy the hell out of me because she was always such a goody two-shoes and always so righteous. And I'm finding sometimes that the main characters in the shows that I'm watching, like I've just started watching Gossip Girl, I find some of the moral high horse things that Dan has, it's like, seriously? His character's just not as likable as some of the others who are just deeply conflicted and doing their best and, going through that. So I think you need a good story with a believable story and a world that draws you in, good characters. Then you need to actually pace and weave that story well. So, if you've got a couple of different characters, you need to make sure you're bringing things in. It needs to feel organic. So I think as a reader, the minute I'm reading a book and I think, oh, where the hell did that come from? Or hang on, I missed this scene. I want to see this scene. Why did you not show me this scene? This was an important scene. Then, that's an example of where, you fill that in. A good story doesn't have any of those missing bits. It might have, oh yeah, I might have done that differently or seen that differently, but I don't feel like anything was missing. I feel like it was all there. No hurried endings, no saggy middles which make you put the book down and you don't care if you get back to it, none of that stuff. And I think they're probably the biggest things. I'm sure there's more, but these are at least the beginnings of a good basic textbook story, like a basic, basic level, I suppose. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think it interweaves again, doesn't it, with the whole constructive criticism. Like, a good story to one person is not a good story to another.
Yeah.
Like I said, there are people out there that can write 400 pages and just weave it like a symphony, and their wording is just beautiful, and there are some that can just describe their surroundings in such detail. It's truly inspiring to me. But as you know, I love short stories. I hate reading the extra chapter fluff that does not need to be there. And that's how I write. So sometimes, the story can be quite short in sentences, as I would say, but usually they're very character driven, and you have to relate to those characters and you have to love those characters. So what's good to one person, you won't really see me reading a 400-page book. I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
I love your shorter novellas. But in saying that, writing a good book is like a novella. You need to have every single thing crammed into that book, but not overrushed. And that's what I work at all the time. Mm-hmm. So like I was saying before, it's it's to each individual person as to what makes a good book. What doesn't make it a good book, like we talked about last time, is if you don't even bother to get an editor. If you don't bother to take that constructive criticism from the people you've trusted to read it. If all of that comes back great, then release your book, because like we said, one person's going to love it, one person's going to hate it. So that's what I think makes a good book. So, because we're all different, and I will usually know who plots and who pantsters. Like, I'm a massive pantster, so I have no plot. I write it as I go, and then I pray to God that people pick up on the parts I've missed. So as for you, are a beautiful plotter.
I'm not. I'm really not. You think I am? I'm not. I started out with the intention to plot, and then I changed that one thing in that first scene, which is now chapter 3 or 4, and it changed everything. And now it's like I've got to. I know where 2 of my characters are going, because it's like I've seen I've seen that relationship, but the rest of it is like, oh, there's all this stuff in this world I want to explore. So I'm not. I would love to be a plotter, but I think once you start writing and you start feeling it, it's like, hang on, I can't just make the next chapter go there. It doesn't work. I feel, my heart feels like I need to do this and this before I get there. And if I was a reader, that would be a bit jarring to me as well. Like, it would just feel contrived rather than organically getting there. And so that's changed stuff for me. Another interesting thing, like, I love, like, so this is something we've touched on but haven't discussed here, so we can discuss it here. We've talked about everyone likes different stuff, and so again, this is a different way. There are a couple of ways of doing something right, and they can be different ways. It doesn't all have to be done the same way. And I keep using the Twilight example just because I can't think of another published example where you get to see a book done 3 different ways published. Usually it's just the one way that you see the drafts of what the author has and might get released after they die. You know what I mean? So just as an example of how, Midnight Sun, from Edward's perspective, could have been the book. That was really interesting. Twilight was the one that got released. From Bella's perspective, that made sense because a lot of the readers are girls, okay? So you can see why she went with that one. And then when she flipped it, again, like, you could see it could have totally been a very different story, but it's the same story.
That's the beauty of indie publishing. I was super happy when I released the Curvy series, and I did it from a first person perspective. But the great thing about it is you own the copyrights. Somewhere down the track, I'm going to take them off and write them from a third person perspective, because that's where I feel now, because your writing changes and grows. And that's why I really support indie authors, and I love them, and I want to promote them because they're just doing it. They're getting out there, they're releasing it, and they're doing it, and they can actually look at themselves in the mirror and say, I did it. I did it. And all that other stuff can change later. If you have bad reviews, you know what? That's okay. Pull it off, change it, fix it, put it back on. I think that's the beauty of indie. I think people get really stressed out. I understand that, with the marketing, and there's so much involved. Really, 5% of writing, isn't it? When you look at it. But that's okay, because you learn from it, you grow, and you get better at it as you go. But you're never going to get better if you don't release it.
If you don't try. I've heard some really good analogies. So there's a good one. It's not a tattoo. I don't know whose quote that is. It's one of the business marketing people, I think. It's not a tattoo, so it's not forever. You can change it. And I think, what's her name? Joda Penn uses a good one about skiing. Like, you can't change direction unless you're in motion. So I think that's pretty cool as well. Like, Nora Roberts, I think, used to say you can't edit a blank page. True. Yeah. Very true. You can't get constructive criticism on a blank page. The criticism is start writing. But in terms of that, so everybody likes different things in their stories, and something can be done right a few different ways. I think the one thing that I've been thinking about lately is, again, I heard Joda Penn was talking about self-censorship. in one of the podcasts I was listening to. And I was thinking about that because we had a chat early on with my story about genre expectations and what I like to read as a reader, and like what's also popular as well, you know. And some of the expectations are, for example, the one that kind of annoys me is the, you know, the contrived what was it? The other person, you know what I mean? Like the classic. Do you remember that chat? I can't remember. Oh, it was. Oh, okay, there was another. There was one. I'm trying to think. You know, like the classic other woman. You know, like that's just. You know, those.
I love how there's like 3 characters involved in a love triangle.
You love the love triangle. I hate the love triangle. And
oh my gosh, I love it.
But you know, again, so this is the thing. This is where do you listen? Where do you write? You can write the story that you want to write and understand that 3 people in the world might like it too. You can also write the story that people expect, and maybe 300 people will like it, or 3 million, but you've got to write what's sustainable. And
you do.
If you write something you don't enjoy, then you're not going to write it. So do you know what I'm saying? Okay, so this is a discussion with no right answer. Well, unless there is an answer. If you want to sell books, you do.
Yeah, there is, but I think there's, if you're really wanting to be an author, you need to stick true to yourself. You know, I absolutely love Amy Harmon, and if you read Amy's books, none are the same. She changes genre when she wants, but you know her writing style, and I love that she jumps out of the box. It's the same with me. You know, I started with chick lit, I've done non-fiction, now I'm doing contemporary new adult. But even then, you know, in contemporary new adult, you know, everybody expects these massive sex scenes, which border on erotica. I don't do that. I don't. I have to stick with what I like, because I'm the one at the end of the day that needs to feel right about what I've written. And I just hope people like it, and some will, some won't. But I hate being put in a box. And sometimes I think if you put in like the chick lit characters, genre, or the contemporary, there's sort of a theme you have to follow in a sense. And I don't believe that at all. I mean, even with chick lit, you know, I released it as plus size girls. So just to flip it up that little bit, you know, and sort of push those boundaries. So, yeah, I mean, I get what you say. People do. They want you to stick to a certain thing because that's going to attract more readers. But you need to stay true to yourself as well. I mean, I was very shocked at how the Curvies went. And I didn't expect it at all. I just woke up one morning and had a look on Amazon and fell off my seat. Because I wasn't expecting that. I was writing about plus-size characters, you know, that were based on, you know, me and my friends and how immature we were. So I didn't actually think they would take off, but I wanted to publish. So you just don't know what people are going to like. Yeah. Wow, that all came out really quickly.
That was good.
You have to learn to shut me down.
No, that was good. This is what these are, though. These are chats. Yeah. All right. So what are you doing at the moment? You've got 2 weeks, is it, before April's Dance comes out?
Yes. February 14th.
What's your pre-launch regime at the moment? So I don't know if we talked about what you'd done last time. I think we briefly touched on book advertising websites and stuff. But what are you doing now?
Gosh, I usually have my promotions set up about 3 months in advance. So as soon as I've got the final proof hard copy back, paperback copy, I go straight out and make sure I've got my banners done. I have booked 2 different blog tour companies, which are my biggest source of readers. And I absolutely love the bloggers. I mean, they're amazing, and they get the books out there for us. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. I do a lot like Kindle book review. I don't do BookBub until later on. So I go to different reader sites. So I've booked about 20 different blogs away from the blog tours as well. So February 14th to 18th, I'll have promotion. I never just do it for the launch day.
Yeah.
I do it for about 4 to 5 days afterwards. A lot of people like to soft launch, get reviews, but I actually book reviews in with it.
Yeah.
So if I book with, like I've gone through Espresso blog tours and Book Enthusiasts. Usually I use Goddess Fish as well. They're great. What I do is I actually have reviews involved with it. People are more than welcome to go to those sites and ask for an art copy of the book. So hopefully reviews will come out that day, and hopefully they'll be good. It's all just a test time then. And then after that, you know, I let it go itself. I don't keep booking any more promotion. I sort of let the reviews take over from there. Hopefully Amazon will, you know, put your recommendations with other books and stuff like that. And then I don't promote that again until the second book's out. And usually I'll drop the price for a week so they have a chance to read sort of what the first one's about, even though they can be read as standalones.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. So February 14th, Autumn's Dance is coming up, and I'm super excited about that. And I hope the people who watch this are super excited about that.
I hope so too. I really like the book.
Just doing a plug there. Like,
no, plug away. I mean, it's not my genre, and I quite like the book. So, yeah, be honoured. That's an official Lisa plug.
I love your book. I'm so invested in one of your characters, and it's fantasy fiction, and I don't normally read fantasy fiction, and I'm so in love with this character. I'm so mad at you, by the way, because you haven't sent me the photocopy.
I'm getting there. Well,
I need to know how it ends.
Well, I'll tell you something. I hope you can say that after you've read the ending. So, because what I'm going to do is, so in thinking about this whole...
If you kill him off, we shall never, ever speak again. I'm just saying right now.
No, so what I'm not giving anything away. So what I'm doing over the summer, so I haven't written much at all. I might have written 1,000 words, if that, over the whole summer holidays.
Oh, I know. I get ya. I do.
Yeah. So I let myself read, and I've read a few good books, and I'm hoping going to interview those writers as well, or chat with them anyway. But anyway, so what I've been doing and thinking about this whole, you know, self-censorship thing, because part of the thing of, you know, writing is I'm loving all the quotes on Twitter. Like there's a Twitter person I follow called Novelicious, I think, and she posts the most beautiful artwork and the most beautiful quotes. And yeah, and like I could just keep thinking about, you know, this, write the story as the muses send it kind of thing, and then see, you know, polish it up so it flows and everything. And I think Stephen King might have even said this as well, but if you know, write it kind of the way the muses sent it, because that's the story. You know what I mean? Don't change it to try and make the square peg fit in the round hole kind of thing, you know. And especially, you know, because my expectations with this are, you know, I can't be disappointed if I get 5 sales. I'll be wrapped. After the experiences I've had with all the work I've put in on the non-fiction stuff, I'm doing this for fun. So anyway, so what I've been thinking is, all right, so there was the ending when I changed that first chapter and it changed the whole story. I started to write the ending as, you know, I chatted with Brenton and you and Kylie, and I was thinking, okay, what do I, you know, I'll write this ending anyway. But what I'm thinking now is, you know what, bugger it, I'm going to go and I'm just going to rewrite the ending the way the muse sent it to me the first time, and I'm going to give you both options to have a look at, and I want your feedback on both of those to see what emotively, you know, what draws you in more. And then so I chatted with Dina. You've watched Dina's chat. Her book came out yesterday, I think. And I'm halfway through it. I like it. It's a cross between Scorpion and Buffy, I would say. I don't think that's how she's marketing it, but it's the high school kids, high school geniuses fighting demons, you know, like it's cool. It's cool. Yeah. So but yeah, I was chatting with her a few weeks ago, and she joined me into her writing group, which is so cool, and everyone's in there is really nice. And so we've got a project we're working on, and as a consequence of that, I've started writing a novella, which, originally my story was supposed to be a novella, and it's not. Anyway, so I'm trying. I'm actually pushing myself to write something smaller and to try and be concise with it. And so as a consequence of that, I'm using a character in the book that you've read, the first book, and I'm drawing out a part of her story. So in the book she's mentioned as a friend of one of the characters, and then the novella is basically her world. So and how, just a one part of that story. And as I was walking home from school today, I had more ideas. Like,
I think I'm going insane with ideas or carrying characters around. Gosh, the characters are so real, and my husband doesn't really understand that. But when I go to bed, they go to bed with me. When I wake up,
oh, that's so funny.
I'm like, no, I'm a writer. It never stops. Inspiration doesn't stop.
Yeah, I had to laugh with that gif of the guy crying his eyes out, and it's like when you have to kill off a character that you love.
Oh my God! I just thought of you when you said that to me. Man, I just laughed. I mean, I can't say who because it's in my next book, but when I had to kill that character, it took me 2 weeks to write that chapter. And I think I moaned and mourned and grieved for another 2 weeks. Like, seriously, I was going to resurrect that character. It totally would have blown my story to pieces. It's so real. And I don't care what anyone thinks. I mean, I think if you're a writer, an artist, it doesn't matter. You're all a little crazy in some way.
Yeah.
And that's why I say stay true to it, and write the way you want to write. At the end of the day, it's your life, and it's a race. It's the long journey. It's not who's going to finish first. And I think as a writer, you have to be prepared to do the 5 years, the 10 years, have the books behind you before you become, a big success. A lot of people are so downhearted when they release their first book, and people aren't buying it the way they thought that they would buy it. But you're competing against authors that have put out 5, 10, 20 books.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to use that and have that expectation that you're going to get criticism, you're going to get good reviews, bad reviews, but just keep slogging it out. Yeah. And by your 4th or 5th book, you'll start getting people noticing the name and buying back books even, I still find that now that they'll buy back books, and I'm like, man, I read that like 4 years ago. Like, but that's just the way it goes. And
that's an interesting thing.
And Lisa's going to be...
I hope so. As I said, if I sell 5 books, I'm still having a party because I'm excited. Let's wrap this writer's chat up. Okay, so thank you for that, Sarah. I'm just going to stop this video.